Oh man, I wish this discussion could go on forever.
Ignore the bell! We're gonna keep going, people! Hello, welcome to the Ignore the Bell podcast. I'm Nathan Knapp.
And I'm Tyler Knapp.
And today we are talking about M. Night Shyamalan movies. So I'm very excited about this.
Yes, me too. But we do have a sponsor for this episode as well.
We do. So our sponsor for today is Halogen Lights. When you relied on natural light and the sun started setting at 4 o'clock because it's November in Canada, turn to Halogen Lights for your next video. Thanks, Halogen.
Yep. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to get our timer started here. All right.
Good.
So, M. Night Shyamalan. There's a lot to talk about.
There's tons to talk about. And I mean, I'll say it right off the bat. I'm going to defend him in almost every instance.
Okay.
I really like almost all of his movies.
Yeah, I am not a fan of The Last Airbender at all.
Sure.
But I can still defend some of his choices, and some people will...
Even in The Last Airbender?
Yes, even in The Last Airbender.
There you go.
I'm just going to defend a few things, not everything.
Sure.
But yeah, we will get to that one.
I'm good with that. So just to kind of get started, I want to go over all of the films that he's credited with directing. So in 92, his debut was Praying with Anger. Never heard of it. Don't know what it is. Then in 98, he had Wide Awake.
No idea.
Right. In 99, a movie called The Sixth Sense. Did anybody even see that?
I think I remember the trailers for that. Yeah, that was...
Right. Yeah, so obviously, that was just this, breakout hit. Just incredible.
Well, I think that was his first writing credit as well.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's good, because I want to talk about that.
Yes.
I definitely want to talk about when he's directing... Okay, well, I'm going to save that part, but yes.
Yes.
Okay. 2000, he had Unbreakable. So that was only, right after The Sixth Sense, which is... I thought there was a longer break in there.
Yeah.
2002, Signs. 2004, The Village.
Which I just saw last night.
Right. 2006, Lady in the Water. So he's going every 2 years after this.
So that's one that I still haven't seen.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen everything Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, Lady in the Water. 2008, The Happening.
Yeah, I have not seen that one either.
So I've seen that.
I know quite a bit about it. I've seen the memes and the, things about it, but yeah, I have not seen the film.
Okay. 2010, The Last Airbender.
Yes, I have seen it.
I have not seen that. This one...
You should be grateful for that. That's
right. Okay, so this is one that we did not talk about before we started this. And this is one where I went, ooh, can't defend that. 2013, After Earth. Will Smith and isn't his son in it?
Yes, Jaden Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can come back to it.
Yep.
I've started watching the movie and I turned it off. I haven't done that with any other movie that I've seen of his. Literally had to turn it off. Could not take it.
Yeah, that's fair. I have seen it. I own it.
Okay, I couldn't get through it. Maybe I should try again. I don't know.
It's not great, but I was able to get through it. It was the
accents. Oh, I'm not a fan of accents. That weird accent that... What is the kid's name? Jaden Smith? Is that it? Whatever accent he was putting on. Hello, Faja. I don't... I'm like, is that supposed to be a sci-fi voice? I don't get it.
I don't think that he keeps that for the whole movie, but it has been a while. So.
He loses the accent. Wayward Pines, he did one episode of that TV series. Now, Wayward Pines, unless I'm getting mixed up here, let me click on this, but I'm fascinated by this show, and I haven't seen any of it, because I'm pretty sure that it was the Duffer Brothers who did Stranger Things.
Really?
Who did Wayward Pines.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know we're kind of going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, but I'm pretty sure that that's what they worked on before
And we will have a Stranger Things episode
They sure
very
did.
soon.
Yeah, Matt and Ross Duffer, Wayward Pines.
Wow.
So that interesting connection between Stranger Things and M. Night Shyamalan.
Huh.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I can kind of see it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, like it makes sense, but it's... Huh.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to go back. Okay, so, and then, so that was 2015 that he did one episode of Wayward Pines. 2015, The Visit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, seen that.
2016, Split, which I just watched. We watched together just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, I had already seen it a couple times, but this was your first time.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then 2019, he's got a movie called Glass. Is that going to be Mr. Glass? Sure looks
Yes.
like it. Yes.
Yes, it is.
So
So, spoiler alerts, if people haven't seen Split, I mean, honestly, go watch it. But
this is kind of salvaging Split for me here because I don't have a lot. I have some good things to say about it, but I was not thrilled with it.
Gotcha.
But this is actually pulling it back for me looking at this on IMDb for Glass. Security guard David Dunn uses his supernatural abilities to track Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 24 personalities. So he's going to start tracking him in Glass.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I've seen the trailer for Glass, and
I didn't even know it had a trailer yet.
yeah, so in it, then all three of them are, like, in this institution, mental health clinic thing. All three of them. And, there's this, woman who's talking to them, and it's like, it's so nice to meet you. All three of you, have these delusions of, being superheroes and all that. And so it's, or superheroes, supervillains, and, like, all three of them, then it's like, well, yeah, they all kind of do believe it at this point, right? Because, I mean, Unbreakable, then it was so much of David Dunn just saying, like, nope, I'm,
Right.
this is completely ridiculous. There's no truth to this whatsoever.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Me too. I want to know how David Dunn even gets in there.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, like they showed him at the end of Split.
He's just in a diner.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yeah. I know. So
I'm saying, how did he get into the psychiatric facility?
Right.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what did he do to deserve that?
Yeah. No, I know. It's going to be really interesting to see that. But I do really like this idea of, like the three different films, each named for one of the three characters there. Unbreakable, Split, and then Glass.
Shouldn't Split have been called Horde? You horde!
Yes. Well, I mean, the third movie isn't titled Mr. Glass.
You're right.
And I don't know that David Dunn calls himself Unbreakable.
You're right. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I think that we should start with Split.
Yes.
Because I just watched it. Maybe after we'll talk about The Village, because you just watched that.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, so Split. Okay. Overall, here are my impressions. So we have not talked about this at all.
Nope. We literally stopped the movie and we were just like, we're going to talk about this on the podcast. And
right.
Did not say another word about it.
Right, exactly. So I love Unbreakable. I think I should start with that. I love that movie.
It is so good.
It is so amazing. I've shown it to my classes before. Like, I don't care. Like, that's one of the nice things about being a teacher. Is just like, this is very important and we are going to study this and I'm going to pull more people into this.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love Unbreakable. And it is not Unbreakable 2. And I don't...
Right.
Okay, and it's certainly not that, but it's not even in the same style as Unbreakable. Narratively, like, in terms of, like, what's happening, it is just like, boom, you are in medias res with this guy. Like, you don't see him coming into all of these different personalities. There's no origin story.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have any of that. It's just like, boom, you're right in the midst of his psychosis.
Yeah.
Sort of. So, it's a good movie, okay? I like it. I think the problem is that I had high expectations because so many people said and I'm not talking about you. I'm saying like I heard just nothing but like wonderful like praise for the movie.
Yeah.
So and then also people saying like, oh, and the ending, like when it's like, wow, you gotta watch to the end because like, ooh, there's something about Unbreakable in there. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be fantastic. And I was kind of disappointed because like I knew all of that going in. So I'm thinking, this is going to be mind blowing. Yeah. And there's gonna be this whoa, Unbreakable connection at the end.
Yeah.
Which probably didn't help.
Right. That's very much something that like I saw Split for the first time without knowing any of that. I saw it so in much theaters. Better. Yeah.
Yes, that'd be so much better.
I had heard something about there being like, you know, like, I don't know, I forget what I had read, but it was something, you know, like the strange Unbreakable Split connection. So that didn't say anything, right? Right. Like, it didn't say that it was something about the ending. It didn't say that they took place in the same universe or anything. So going into the movie like that, it was like, huh, like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Like, I guess, like, it's going to have, like, maybe some of the same themes or something. Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, getting to the end and that music playing by James Newton Howard, I believe.
Sounds right.
Yeah, anyway, his music from Unbreakable playing. Oh, man. Oh. In theaters, I was going crazy. I was like, this is a sequel? I had no idea.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I think if I went into it without knowing that, I would have been so pumped up. Now, even knowing it, I was still super excited to hear the music because I love that score.
It's so good.
Oh, my goodness.
It's so good.
I love that.
Yeah, and I noticed on this rewatch that, like, you can hear notes of it, no pun intended, earlier on in the film.
Oh, I didn't actually catch that.
Yeah, it's subtle, but I might be imagining things, but I'm pretty sure that he put in, because it's the same composer.
Right. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. It's and actually that's another really interesting thing. The studio who did Split is Blumhouse.
Blumhouse, yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they do great things. It's a perfect match for M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
But Unbreakable was not done by Blumhouse.
Right. Well, was Blumhouse even around back then?
I don't think so. It was done by Touchstone Pictures, which is owned by Disney.
I was going to say, right, that's Disney's, like, production company, right?
Yeah. So I've had time to, you know, look all this stuff up and everything. And so M. Night Shyamalan actually, he keeps the rights to any sequel to any of his films.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Oh my.
I know.
I can say this, I mean, as a writer, that, I mean, like, I turned down a publishing deal because they insisted on having the rights, like, that they would have the right to the sole right to publication for any sequels or any spin-off characters or anything like that. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, so good for him for keeping those rights. That's good.
So absolutely nobody else could have done an Unbreakable 2. It had to be him. Like, he's the only person who could have done it.
Yeah.
But Split is not a Touchstone Pictures film. Like, I feel like Disney would be like, we don't want anything to do with that, especially with M. Night Shyamalan's recent, you know, I don't know, because at the time of Unbreakable, it was like, wow, yeah, he's this, you know, amazing director, but his career has been shaky. So I think that Disney probably would not have really wanted to invest in a film like that. But Blumhouse did an amazing job, and they were the perfect match for Split.
I can't imagine, though, that Split cost all that much to make.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do know what you mean, that, like, even whatever it cost, whatever the production budget was and distribution, all that, Disney probably still would have been like, we don't think so.
Yeah. So that's really interesting, though, because I don't think that that's been done before, with a sequel being done by the same creative team, but with a different studio.
That's a very good question.
Right? Like, it was originally intended to... yes, this is... So that's part of it. The other part of it is that M. Night Shyamalan apparently, from what I've read, he wanted to have the Horde in Unbreakable.
He had this character in mind, even back then.
Yeah. So
in 99. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the movie came out in 2000, but yeah, like, he had...
I thought it said 99 on IMDb.
I thought it was Sixth Sense was 99.
I thought it said Sixth Sense 98.
Oh,
and
maybe.
then Unbreakable 99. In any case, we're
Yeah.
right around. Yeah.
Right. So he had the idea for that character and wanted to see David Dunn go up against him in Unbreakable, but instead he was like, I don't have enough time to flesh out this character. I don't have enough like in
Screen
Unbreakable.
time?
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was like, well, I'm just gonna do this other, house. The first time that David Dunn actually does anything heroic.
Yeah.
When he goes to the house and saves those people that are captured there.
Right.
So that was originally supposed to be David Dunn saving people from the Horde.
Gotcha.
So that would have been really, really crazy, but there was definitely not enough time in Unbreakable.
No. And it would have been not, it would have detracted from the movie.
Yeah.
If you had another supervillain in there, right? Because so much of it is like, you don't know until the very, very end that, what's his name? Samuel L. Jackson's character. Is it Elijah? I want to say?
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah. So, Mr. Glass, when you find out that he's responsible
Right.
for all
the handshake right there at the... Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
I can't say enough amazing things about Unbreakable.
Unbreakable is so good.
It's so good.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. So, but I do really want to focus in on Split before we start going off into all these other ones. So, for me, so like I said, it is not Unbreakable 2.
No.
It's a completely different narrative approach, right? You don't get the origin story, and you don't have, unless you count his psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not sure what she is, unless you count her, you don't even have anybody going after him within the film. So that's part of, I didn't think that it was a spectacular film for a whole bunch of reasons. And as I start thinking through this, I didn't feel like there was a lot of tension. The girls weren't doing very much to try to escape. They had a few attempts, but they were really lousy attempts.
Right.
And then you don't have any tension of this external character who's closing in.
Right.
There was basically none of that. So it to me, it felt indulgent. It felt overlong.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that would be I think it would go from being a good movie, because I think it's good, I think, to being a great movie. If you cut, I would say, a good 30 minutes, because it's a 2-hour runtime.
Yeah.
And I think that that'd be so much, the story could be so much tighter if it was 90 minutes, because you could achieve everything that film achieves within 90 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because at the same time, I wanted to see more personalities, and
More
I know
personalities would have been
I know that a
great.
lot of people had that comment. It was like, you talk about him having 23 different personalities, 24 by the end, but how many do we actually see? Like, we really only get to know 3,
Right.
and then we see like a few others.
Sure. Even in the credits, there was maybe like 8 or 9 that were listed.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, because yes, I could handle a 2-hour runtime if you did have more characters. But I found it, like I say, I think it was indulgent. I think it was just too much was happening on screen that didn't need to happen on screen, that wasn't contributing anything new.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just kind of like, I get it. I get what you're doing here, but I'm not entirely sure why you're giving me as much as you're giving me. To me, it wasn't as interesting as I think, M. Night Shyamalan probably thought it was on screen.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the story's great. You could have...
And he has a lot of cut scenes in the film as well. Like, I've watched all the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
And a lot of those are actually feature the psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever.
I think she's got to be a psychologist, because she didn't talk about medicating him. So I think that would make her a psychologist then.
Okay.
Or a therapist or whatever. In any case.
Yeah. So it actually had like this whole subplot with her and her neighbor and her kind of having a thing for him and stuff. Like, it was weird, and that whole subplot got cut. And thank goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need to know about her love life.
The only way that comes back is when Barry, Dennis, says, like, do you live alone? I mean, have you always lived alone?
Right.
And so it's like that sort of thing where but that's the only real connection to anything else. So it's definitely a good thing that they cut that out. But it was...
See, and that's a really good example for me of how it's overlong.
Mm-hmm.
He does that whole thing, and but then to no effect.
Right.
It doesn't come back up later on of the fact that she lives alone or that he wants to know this. And it's like, it's fine as a writer if you're going through that and it's like, yeah, he would ask her weird questions like that, but it's like, but you don't need to put it on screen.
Yeah.
Like that can just get cut from it because if it's not contributing to the story, then we don't need it.
Yeah.
Like it just, that scene felt long.
Yeah.
Almost every scene in the movie felt long to me.
Mm-hmm. And like, I really like some of the long shots or long takes,
yeah,
right?
The long takes, yes.
Yeah, where it's just, you know, when Dennis first comes into the room with the three girls and he just sits down on the chair and just looks and you're just staring at him perfectly framed. That's awesome. Like that's classic
Terrific.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
And it does give you just that unsettling feeling of like, well, what's he gonna do? Like, what is all this?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, there are definitely like, yeah, just scenes really that could be cut. Like not even like full scenes, but yeah, like it
just shortened.
Yeah. And I mean the whole, like, I know that M. Night Shyamalan really likes to have his cameos, but I felt like this one was a bit long as well. You didn't recognize that it was him when we were watching it.
To be fair,
but
I was not super close to the television,
right?
And because of the kind of TV, and it was such like extreme widescreen, it was like 3 inches tall, the picture,
right? Yes,
but like 8 feet wide. It was just like, how panoramic is this? It was very confusing for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, but you know, he has like the whole discussion with Dr. Fletcher, I think that's her name, about, you know, like the chicken wings that he got from
Hooters, which she keeps calling a fast food restaurant, and Hooters is a sit-down place. So I don't understand. Does she not know? Why does she keep calling it a fast food place?
I don't know.
Does she think that sit-down food is still fast food? What kind of fancy pants is this?
Yeah, see, like that whole scene, like not the whole scene, but that whole beginning part of the scene where they're talking about the food, completely unnecessary.
So unnecessary.
Who cares about the food?
Because it doesn't, and you can do that, you can have that kind of thing if it is to achieve some kind of effect.
Right. If she, you know, talks later about like how she doesn't like, you know, how she's vegan or something.
Right.
Then it would totally like be really awesome, especially with, you know, what happens with with Kevin, right?
Good. That'd be clever. That'd be very clever.
Yeah. But
well, but then we get introduced to this like friend of hers. What is, like, is he some kind of colleague or something? I don't even understand why he was in there. She's just sitting down at a computer next to him. He's eating chicken wings.
Yeah.
Who is he?
So that was I guess like the building manager or something, because they were looking at the
tapes.
Yeah, the CCTVs outside.
Okay.
But yeah,
but see, you don't need to know. Like, you introduce this character, and it's like, if that's how you choose to introduce him, fine. Where it's like, all right, he's this kind of like weirdo who's like, don't throw away food. That's my thing. And I also really like Hooters. It's like, all right, well, fine. You can introduce us to this character, but then he never comes back.
Yeah.
So it's like, why did we learn about him?
Yeah.
Why did we learn those two weird things? He likes, like, he won't throw out food, and he also likes going to Hooters. Like, those two things to learn about a character who's a throwaway character.
Yeah.
It's like, that was so unnecessary. And the movie would have been better if you didn't have that. If you could still have M. Night Shyamalan in there. It's
right.
Like, oh, what do you need to see the tapes for? And then it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And then he's like, all right, boom. Such a tighter scene.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just, it's like, it's a little drawn out, and it's like, where
right.
are you going with this?
Yeah. Yeah. So all that being said, I really love the way that it connects to Unbreakable, in that it's the same theme of Unbreakable, where Unbreakable is all about, like, we are who we choose to be.
Yes.
And so then with Kevin, or, you know, the Horde, whatever you want to call him, he chooses to be, like, this monster. It's all about, you know, like, well, our brains can actually, like, change us that way so that we become what we think we are. And So I think that from that perspective, like the theme of each of those characters is quite solid in the similarities, and so that's going to be really interesting in Glass.
Okay, let me press you on this though, because you've got this really great line towards the end of Split when he is about to attack. What is the girl's name?
Oh man,
she's in the cell at the end.
Right.
The main girl of the three, she's in the cell, and then he's going after her, and she's got the shotgun and whatever, and then he sees that she's been cutting herself, that she's got all these scars all over herself. At least I presume that's what the implication is, unless it's suggesting that her uncle has somehow done this to her. But I think it's that she's doing this to herself.
Yeah, I know. That also was a little unclear, but in my opinion. But
he looks at her, and then he's like, I forget exactly what he says, but I remember if we recorded this 2 hours ago, I would have remembered what it was.
Right.
But it was something like, oh, like you're broken too. Like us who are broken are more evolved.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got your superhero who is unbreakable.
Right.
But then you have the Horde who's very broken. Literally his personalities are fractured, right? Like Mr. Glass just shattered apart his personalities.
Right.
Mr. Glass physically, everything about him is shattered apart. His bones get shattered apart. So he's this physical broken figure. And the other guy is this psychologically broken figure, right? But then you have like this inverse of it, which is very well done.
Yeah.
Right? For superhero fiction, it's like, ooh, it's that inverse of it.
Right.
It's the exact same thing, except in reverse.
Yeah.
Right? The opposite direction of, but I am this unbreakable person, both physically and psychologically.
Right.
Where it's like, he thinks that he's David Dunn, but he's like, you're not really David Dunn. Don't be fractured. You are unbreakable. You are this figure, right? And then physically he's like that. And so then I'm like, ooh, what interesting stuff you're doing here. And this idea that like the broken are more evolved, and it's like, but are they? Because then you've got the superhero here who is not like that at all.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, like, I'm like, I don't know if it's hitting the same theme, or at least not suggesting that they all have got the same, I don't know how to put it. They're not all broken figures.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's just, because Mr. Glass, then his whole thing was like, you're not being who you're supposed to be. That's what he kept telling David Dunn.
Yes.
And he was like, we are who we choose to be. You have to choose to be the hero that you are. And so I
wonder how this pairs then, because if you've got Mr. Glass saying, well, you choose to be this person, but then you've got Kevin, Barry, Horde, Patricia, who's like, well, but is he choosing? If he chooses the beast, right? If he chooses to be that, then okay. But it seems like a lot of this is beyond his control of choosing. So almost like you've got kind of like within like the Batman universe, how you have different supervillains who do not all operate the same way or by the same rules. Right? That you've got the Riddler and the Joker who both kind of seem like they laugh a lot, right? And they both kind of do these weird psychological experiments on people, but they're not the same figure at all.
Yeah. So I know it is going to be very, very interesting. There is a line in the trailer for Glass where Mr. Glass says, like, that sounds like the bad guys teaming up. And he says it like he's not happy. He's, just like looking back, and he's like, that sounds like the bad guys teaming up. Like something like that. So it's like, okay, so he's not completely sold on this idea of being a villain, even though he knows that he is. So can he choose to not be a villain?
Right.
So it's going to be really, really interesting to see Glass. And I love the way that it sets it up. But I do agree that, I wanted to see more of the Horde. Yes. Like more personalities, right?
Yes.
And yet I wanted the film to be shorter.
Right. Because that's what I'm saying, is that it could be so much tighter. And I think part of it, and it doesn't have to do with length, right? Like I've heard, like Jerry Seinfeld, I think he talks about it in Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, where he's like, when we talk about something being like too long, we just mean that it was bad, right? And he's like, you can watch something for 3 hours and you still want more because it was so good. And he's like, but I've seen 30-second videos that are too long. Yeah. And it's because it's bad, right? It's not about the length. And it's that, for me, I don't think that, like, because it could be 2 hours, but the problem for me is that there is no tension within the film, that I feel like it's missing something. It's doing what it's more of a thriller than a horror story. Yeah. Like within the genre, it's more thriller based, but it's not, but it seems like it's almost thinking that it's more of a horror story where you've got kind of like a Saw type of thing. Right. Yeah. Where it's almost a bottle ship type of movie where it's within this enclosed environment. You don't have a lot of idea of what's going on in the outside world. Yeah. And it's just kind of like drawn out. But I don't think that it's pushing itself enough to be horror. Right. So I don't think it works as well, because a thriller typically works well because it's like you get this tension of the good guys are closing in on the bad guy. Right. And you have that back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. The closest that you get is like Dr. Fletcher, like, figuring out that it's, actually real or whatever, or that it's actually Dennis, but then that does happen and then it doesn't really change anything. No. So it's
and she doesn't seem to, but she's got this like admiration for people with this personality disorder, right? And she doesn't seem to even suspect that, or even if he is dangerous, she doesn't seem to care that much. It's like she would have been such an interesting character if she was more of like a Mr. Glass type of character, where it's like, I'm not this. I don't have the personality disorder, but I respect it so much, and so I'm going to try to, nurture this and, massage this into what I want him to be, or to see what he's capable of. Like, kind of like a mad scientist who it's like, I don't have that ability to do what you can do. Yeah. But through the scientific method, let's try to like see what you can do.
Yeah, her character definitely had the potential for that.
To do that.
That would have been good. So we should move on to some other M. Night films. Sure. Just quickly though, the main girl in Split, she is also going to be in Glass. So
why? Okay.
She's gonna have something to do with like she's gonna be brought in to talk to Hedwig at the very least.
Oh, okay. I could kind of see that, but I didn't appreciate her as a character, because to me she doesn't have enough agency. And it's like, and she didn't seem to get to that point. It seemed like it was leading there, and it's like even the whole backstory of her with her uncle, and it's like, well, I couldn't do it, I couldn't shoot him even though he was abusing me, but I was a kid, and it's like, but now that she's an adult, she does kind of shoot Horde, but she doesn't actually, like, you think that she's biding her time, formulating a plan, and she's telling this to the other girls, and it's like, turns out she was just gonna like sit there and just like wait and wait and wait, like, just she's so passive as a character. So that's how I feel about the film in general. It's like everybody else isn't really doing anything.
So that is interesting, because she almost doesn't have any personality. Yeah. Compared to and I wonder if that's sort of what he was thinking, because this whole idea of like, oh well, the broken are the more evolved, and she is broken. Yes. But has she evolved to the point where she doesn't have her own personality?
Right, where it's so like repressed. Right. And that tends to be somebody who's like cutting themselves. They can't express their feelings, their emotions, and whatever. So it's just you end up inflicting that kind of pain on yourself. Like, yeah, if he explored that more, that would have been great. There's so many things, and I mean, and I know that we should move on to other movies. I will say this as well. I didn't even think, what's his name, James McAvoy? I wasn't that impressed with his performance. And I'm not saying that he did a bad job, but it wasn't like, wow, we've never seen an actor do such a good job of playing multiple roles. I feel like there's tons of other examples of actors who've played multiple roles like that. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I think that Eddie Murphy did a better job in The Nutty Professor, like, where you can't even recognize him at times. And that wasn't just because of makeup. That was because of voices.
Yeah.
James McAvoy, and I understand that it's like, yeah, well, he wouldn't necessarily be doing all these fancy voices and whatever if he's not physically capable of it. But I still think, like, I'm telling you, like, Eddie Murphy can kind of be more of a chameleon, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I was impressed with James McAvoy going back and forth between the different personalities. Like, you saw, it wasn't in the voice, but I did feel like it was there in, like, the way that
body
he carried
language,
himself. Yeah.
facial
expression. I would say yes. In terms of voice, then I'm not saying that he did a bad job. Right.
It just, I didn't find it impressive. Or even like somebody, and this is another comedic performance, but Jim Carrey in The Cable Guy. He does he has lots of different personalities in that. Yeah. And I think 1960, Anthony Perkins in Psycho, I know you haven't seen Psycho, but oh boy, like that 1960, I'm like, somebody who has personality disorder, and I'm not trying to spoil it, but like, I feel like it's 1960. I think I can kind of spoil it.
Yeah.
But like, he does such a good job where I watched this and I was expecting more, because I've seen great actors play multiple roles, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't that impressive to me.
Right. Yeah.
So I wasn't really disappointed. I had expectations that it was going to be up here, and it just wasn't there. Like, I think other movies, and this is maybe a good way to transition to other movies, like, let's say The Village. A lot of people didn't like The Village, but I think The Village, I liked it more than Split.
Wow. Yeah. So with the Village,
yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Thank
good.
You. It's
oh my goodness, that movie I feel like got so unfairly trashed.
Yeah, no, I mean it's classic M. Night Shyamalan with, you know, like this long, you know, just suspenseful thing, like atmosphere of so like, much suspense. Well, what's going on? Like,
no suspense in Split.
Yeah,
tons of suspense in The Village, and this is why I think it's a better movie.
Right. Yeah, and I was surprised by The Village, because all I had known going into it was that it's an 18th century village, but it's in the present day. Okay. That was all I knew going in.
You knew. Kind of like that horrible twist ending.
I knew the twist. So like that, I don't know.
I didn't know it. I saw it in the theater. I didn't know what the twist was. Okay. So I got that real experience of it. But I'm interested. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. No. And so that helped. I don't know. That was interesting to watch the film that way and see see some of the clues that are left early on, like when they talk about, you know, like, oh well, he was killed in an alley, and it's like an alley in 18th century like villages, and it's like, well, that doesn't like
in colonial America, there wouldn't be a lot of alleys.
Yeah, so that would have been something that like. You know, like I picked up on that as like, oh, well, that's because, you know, it's an actual like alley between buildings rather than like, I don't know, between 18th century houses, stuff like that. Yeah. But so that was part of it. And then they mentioned like a gun, and it's like, and I mean, like that's getting closer to the end of the film, but it's still like, well, people wouldn't really have been shot in the head in their bed, like
right, with a musket.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So there are definitely some things where when you know that it takes place in present day, then it's just kind of like, oh, well, that makes sense for these characters to be saying these things and all that. And the creature, though.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear anything about the creature before going into the film.
Because that's the really great thing about the movie.
Yes.
To me.
I would agree. There was, oh my goodness, like the first of all, that first jump scare of like him like running under like the watchtower or whatever. It was like, oh my goodness, okay, that was
so scary.
You don't know what you saw, but you're like, I saw something. I don't know what it was. It's just like burning red. The use of color in the film is that so
saturated
good.
Red. Oh my goodness. Yes, his usage of color in the movie is spectacular.
Absolutely. And so I was like, wait, so do people just not talk about like this creature? Like, is this actually a creature? I was convinced that it was, like, for the longest time.
Right.
I was like,
because it looks so real.
It does.
It looks so real.
Yeah, because like you don't see the face quite. It's like if I had seen, you know, like the pig face mask, then I'd probably be like, oh, well, that looks like a mask. But because you don't see that, because it's all like shrouded, but with like the spikes on the back, like. Who would design a creature like that, right? Like, just a costume like that.
Right,
like, that's not something that somebody would just, like, put together and just be like, oh, yeah, I forgot to put the spikes on the back. That'll help. Like,
people were so mad.
It's so well done because that's, like, that truly is terrifying.
It is.
Because it looks inhuman.
Right.
It's not a guy in a costume that looks scary. It looks inhuman.
It does. And it's an original looking creature. Like, I haven't seen anything else like that because it's this creature, but it's also got a cape. Like,
right.
What the hell is that? It's like, it's
the
not
ridiculously long fingers.
Yeah. So it's not just a beast, it's an intelligent beast too. Right? Because it's got this sense of like clothing and this fantastic sense of fashion. Yeah. Right? Like, bravo. And
sorry, this is reminding me of Split, though. Like, he becomes the creature. Is it this creature? Right. He says that it's got fingers that are twice as long as his, and he's taller, bigger. I'm like, huh.
Oh, if he can start doing a Tarantino thing of starting to pull them all together, I would love that. Like,
absolutely.
I would love that.
So, because there were rumors about there being a creature in those woods, like a real, you know, beast, in the village, right?
Yes.
Like they talk about, oh, well, there might have actually been like a real beast in here.
Yes.
And then, you know, when she's trying to escape, you think, oh man, it is a real creature.
And that's how come they came up with the costume, right? That it's like, because, like, you know what I mean? It's like they see the creature and they're like, hey, like, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it.
But that creature isn't real. That's the brother Noah,
right?
Who put on the costume.
No. I know that.
Yeah,
but I'm saying that even after, because like it's been so long since I've seen it. But would it still work? Where even after you know that it's them in the village who've got a costume, does it still kind of hold out? But it is possible that there is the real creature out there.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because like there were like the animals that were skinned, right?
Yeah.
And the father, I forget his name, but anyway, he says like, you know, oh, that must have been one of us who is just, you know, like it won't happen again. Right. He literally shrugs it off and just says like, yeah, one of us just got, you know, went a little overboard. It won't happen again. And it's like, like, so that's really interesting. And so with the ending, like the wildlife reserve that they're in is Walker, and the main character's last name is Walker. So did he set up that entire wildlife preserve then?
Maybe.
Because that's where I'm confused. Or did he take his last name from the name of it?
Right.
So I know that they do mention that like government contracts were signed or whatever, like secret deals to make sure that planes didn't fly over the village, which was good world building, by the way. That was
spectacular.
Yeah,
brilliant.
But yeah, so then you're like, well, then the people who live in the village definitely have some, or had some power, some influence.
Oh yes.
But it's like, well, but how much did they have? Did they set up this whole, you know, wildlife preserve, like conservation area just for their village, or what? But yeah, I think that if the creature was real, like I think that it still holds up. Like it's so creepy.
Yes. So this is the thing, and this is why, because like I say, I will defend this movie, and I will defend a lot of what M. Night Shyamalan has done. So because I know that like The Village is really when.
It's really, yeah, that's
it's really when people turned against him.
Yeah, it was the divisive moment for a lot of fans, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
And that was, and I didn't understand it at the time. And because to me, like, he gets no credit, and that film gets, I don't hear people praising the movie. Like, very few people have said good things about it.
Right.
And I'm saying within, let's say, the horror genre, or even, like, suspense thrillers, in terms of an original creature visually, like How come that doesn't get the credit that it deserves? That thing is so much creepier
Absolutely.
than something like Freddy Krueger. Like, that thing is so scary.
Yeah.
And it looks so great on film. And the way he brings it up, like, I think, and I'm not saying that other directors haven't done as good of a job in between, but it's really similar to Spielberg in Jaws, of you don't see the shark very much in that movie. Right? And it's like, and Spielberg had said this. He's like, you can show it, like, you can scare people maybe 2-3 times max in a movie, but if you show the monster beyond that, then it's not scary anymore.
Right.
And a lot of horror doesn't get this, right? But M. Night Shyamalan does it so well.
It's true.
Like, it's very similar to Jaws.
I could count it, like, the amount of times that you see it before it's revealed that it's a costume, but then you see it again and you're like, but it's not a costume.
Exactly.
Because he already like moved away from that.
And you're terrified because you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, because you are always saying, but it could be there, it could be there, it could be there. Like, that's so effective. He does such a good job of achieving suspense throughout pretty much the entire film. And that's, to me, like, it's such an impressive film like that. I think maybe more than any other film that he's done. This, I mean, you've got The Sixth Sense, where you have a little bit of that, of like, this could happen at any point, right? Where like, this kid could see some creepy like thing, some creepy ghost at any point. You get it with Signs, where it's like, well, aliens are kind of everywhere and it could jump out at any point.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Signs. That movie, when I first watched it, was when it first came out. Yes. So I was like 7.
You were way too young.
Way too young. And I was so like,
did it come out? You keep
so,
going.
So
keep going.
Anxious or nervous or whatever, like watching the film. You know, when they show the birthday party camcorder
that is
footage,
it. You've got to describe this.
The camcorder footage of, you know, like out the window, and you know, you're looking at the cornfield. All the kids are making noise. They're like, oh yeah, and you don't know what's out there. And then this alien just walks right out of the cornfield and stares at the camera like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm done. I can't watch anymore. And I ran upstairs and I didn't watch the rest of the movie for years.
Right.
It was so terrifying. And
you had issues with the concept of alien invasions and aliens in general for years. Like, it was like a real problem, because, and this is like what I'm trying to look up right now, but I think like what is so effective about that part of Signs is it's basically found footage horror within the film,
right?
Because, and this is what is so effective about found footage horror, right, is the idea of, if it is lower quality and grainy and all of that, then it brings this sense of authenticity. Right, which you start seeing in the 2000s. Like, I could go on and on about this. But what you have is like, because you had the Blair Witch Project only a couple years before Signs came out, but this is before the found footage, you know, phenomenon really took over. Because Blair Witch certainly did it, but then it didn't really. There weren't a lot of other filmmakers doing this,
and even in Blair Witch, you don't see
Blair Witch doesn't do as good of a job as what you have within Signs, of that birthday party at like this Mexican, you know, like kids' birthday party, right? Because it's like, because the whole thing's in Spanish, right? And so it's like, that I think is even more upsetting when you're watching the video, because you don't even know what they're saying, right? And it's like, it's even more of a foreign experience for you, of like, whoa, but what are they even saying? What's going on, right? And it's like, you know, you've got, what's his name, who's watching?
Joaquin Phoenix's character.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is like, you know, like, move, vamonos, right? And he's like shouting at them, right?
Yes.
He switches into Spanish.
And I had his exact same reaction, because he's like this close to the TV.
In, and you lean in, and then that alien, boom!
And he just goes,
oh my goodness. It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And he does something similar with The Village, right? Not a lot of that, but you're constantly going, yeah.
And so that I think is the interesting thing about Signs, because a lot of people don't like Signs either.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't care about the twist at the end of like, oh, how stupid that water kills them or whatever. Like,
or that it was like his wife had told him,
all swing away or whatever.
Yeah. That it's like, people are like, ah!
I don't care about that. That was the ending of the movie. It's fine. It works. But it wasn't about that. It was about the terror of these aliens
totally
invading.
Yes.
And that I can say, as you know, a kid, it terrified me.
It's so much better.
It's so good.
It's so much better than War of the Worlds, right? Like, and I mean, like, let's say, like, if we're looking at the new version, the remake with Tom Cruise, where it's like War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise does so much more. It's like epic. You've got these massive like alien machines that come in, and it's on this mass scale, and they're traveling, and it's like, but M. Night Shyamalan, because we were talking about this before we started recording, that he is at his best when he has got a small budget and tons of creative control.
Absolutely.
That's when he just crushes it. But if you give him, I think, too much of a budget, then it's like, because what the stories he's telling, they work well when you get that sense of, you know, claustrophobia, right? Of, you know, focused in.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's horror in general.
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, I think that's why I haven't been particularly interested in seeing The Purge, for example.
Right.
Which I know that you said, like, the first one takes place just about in, like, the one house.
Yeah, it does.
But then from then on, like, they're out in the streets, they're roaming about, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, that's not scary in any way.
Right.
Like,
and it's not really meant to be, it's not that kind of horror, right? It's not supposed to be suspense the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so M. Night Shyamalan, like I love so many of his films. And I still say that I am an M. Night Shyamalan fan.
Me too.
Like, I like so many of his films.
So here's my thing. This is what I would say to critics, and then I want to start getting into bad stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but I will say this to the people who complain, they have complained not because he's made bad movies. This is my opinion. The stuff like where they started turning against him. The Village, they turned against him, right? Certainly The Happening, then they turned against him on that one too. And I liked that movie. I know a lot of people hated it, but I liked it. I liked it for all kinds of reasons. But it seemed like, and then he kind of became a punchline for like an M. Night Shyamalan movie or an M. Night Shyamalan ending, right?
Right.
And it's like,
what a twist.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, like, oh, that's his thing. He has these crazy twists. And I'm like, okay, but you guys aren't saying that he's making bad movies. You're saying you don't like that type of movie. Because really, if you watch the original Twilight Zone series, which I've seen not all of them, but almost all of them, right? And a lot of those episodes I've seen multiple times. Or Tales from the Crypt, whether you're talking about the EC comics from the 50s or the 90s version of it that HBO did, like the TV show version of it. If you like stories where it is kind of got a supernatural element to it, and then there's this ironic twist at the end, right? Then it's like, that's exactly what he's doing. He's not even doing anything original.
Right.
Like, he's well within this style that is clearly established of, it's very much Twilight Zone episodes. It's Tales from the Crypt. And it's like, but people who don't like M. Night Shyamalan don't like the Twilight Zone. And they don't like Tales from the Crypt. And I'm like, you just don't like the kind of movies that he does. Basically, you're not saying he's a bad filmmaker. You're saying, I don't like that type of movie, but I don't know that that's what I should say. Instead, I'll just say, he's a bad director because he's making a good movie in a style I don't like.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting because I think that expectations have a huge impact on it as well, because so many people, like, going into The Village, they were expecting there to be this mind-blowing twist at the end. And it's there, but it's not... That's not the main selling point of the film. And
that's
so
not
when
what
people,
makes it a good movie.
Right. So when people were sitting through an hour and a half waiting for that twist, and then it comes up, and they're like, oh, that was it?
Because they're rating the success of a film based off of how good his twist is.
Right. But it's like, yeah, but you wouldn't be doing that if it were any other director.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that they had this idea of, like, this is, like, what we want. But The Sixth Sense works so well because you get that fantastic twist in there that just, like, you know, made him this massive star of, you know, oh, Bruce Willis has been dead all along.
Right.
That he's a ghost. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
Right? Because you didn't know I'm watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Right.
So people didn't expect that. But I think if he had already done a bunch of these movies and then released The Sixth Sense, I think you would have had a lot of people who were still like, yeah, that was a good surprise, but I saw it coming.
Right.
Because I was waiting for something like that, because you're looking for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Sixth Sense is such a good movie, though. I just watched it for the first time, I think, last year.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like that film is perfect M. Night Shyamalan. Like, it's so suspenseful throughout the entire thing.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
But there are also multiple, like, bombshell twists that happen throughout.
Yeah.
It's not just the one twist.
No, you're right.
And that was what I was surprised by with it, because everybody talks about M. Night Shyamalan having a twist ending, but he has like a bunch of twists like in the movie.
Right.
And that was really, really interesting to see it that way, and I added it right back onto my watch list because I'm like, I want to see it again, you know? Like, it's so good.
When I don't even know I'd have to rewatch it, but when Haley Joel Osment at the birthday party, when he gets stuck in that like dumbwaiter, isn't that what he's stuck in, or is it a closet?
I don't remember. I think it's a closet, but
okay.
Yeah.
But when he gets stuck in there and it just starts freaking out, you're just like, Like, how the hell did he make just a closed door terrifying? Because if you're like a filmmaker, let's say like an amateur filmmaker or like an independent filmmaker, and you're looking at like, how do I achieve suspense on no budget? Like, watch that of how he does that, because he gets you to get so freaked out, and he didn't do any special effects to do it.
Right.
Like, none.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the huge thing. Like, you don't see that many ghosts.
No!
In the film.
This is what I'm saying. It's like
so
Jaws.
few. Yeah.
You
see, and I mean, I even love, like, the very end of The Sixth Sense, where Haley Joel Osment's character is talking about the biker that was just hit at the accident right there, and is, like, describing it to his mom. And he's like, and she feels this way. And it's like, what are you talking about? And that's like her moment of like, what is wrong with my kid? But it was like, that moment alone, like, it was so good. Like, and so it's rare to see the ghosts, and that makes it so effective.
Thank you. Yes. So let me pull this back to Split.
Right.
This is why I don't think that Split is that good of a movie. Right? I think it's good. I just don't think that it's great, because it's indulgent, because it's just, so he would be so much creepier if you didn't get so much of him. Or if at least you had different personalities, and you're on the edge of your seat because you don't know which one's going to come out.
Yeah.
Because if a whole bunch of them can kind of lull you into, he's gentle, he's okay, like, you can trust this one, but then you know there's that psycho one that could come out at any moment.
Right, because it's only Hedwig the whole time. And Hedwig is a great character.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
But if we had a bunch of different ones, then it would be like, okay, well, how can I try to convince this one to let me go? How about this one?
But you're constantly on edge, thinking that other one could show up at any point. That monster could show up, and then you'd have suspense. But that's why I'm kind of disappointed with it, because what makes M. Night Shyamalan so good is that sense of suspense. Because even in The Happening, have you seen The Happening?
I have not.
Okay, so even within The Happening, then it's like basically the trees, they release this thing that causes like people to just go nuts, right?
Yeah, just like hop off roofs and everything.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Do all these like
lay down in front of a lawnmower.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's so if you like horror, right? And it's like, because to me, I think what's so great about The Happening is like, if you like Final Destination movies of like death coming for you, and it's just like, it's got so many good like kill scenes because of that, of like I can't even imagine that you could die that way, but you could,
right?
If you just went nuts, if you lost control of your mind, right? So it's like, but you don't know when the trees will kind of turn, because you don't even know like exactly what's going on, right?
Right.
But you're tense all the time of like, oh no, this could be happening at any point. So I'm like, it's still good M. Night Shyamalan, as far as I'm concerned. I think you have a lot of suspense throughout. But the interesting thing, though, is that Unbreakable doesn't have that sense of suspense the whole way.
That's true. It has it in the very opening scene with the train. You're like you're just staring at David Dunn from the kid's perspective.
Yes.
It's just like what's going on? Like, it's so slow, and
it's because there's no reason for a filmmaker to continue on in that scene unless it's going somewhere, right? And he's not a hack.
Right.
He's doing this intentionally, so something's coming, but you don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's true. It doesn't...
It's a slow burn, unraveling the mystery of what's really going on, and that's why I'm saying that Split is not Unbreakable too, because it's not doing that.
Yeah, Unbreakable is a perfect superhero origin film.
Honestly, I'm trying to think, and I mean, I imagine a lot of people would not like this take, but I'm trying to think if there's a better one.
Yeah,
because it's so you can buy it.
Absolutely. I know we all kind of want to, have lived our whole lives and then realize, wait a second, I'm a superhero? This is unusual?
Have you ever been sick a day in your life? And you're like, have I ever really been sick a day in my... Does a cold count? Have I ever broken a bone? Maybe I've really got this whole thing, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, well, what's the thing that I need to discover that's special about me? Because his thing is like...
Yeah.
Well, and then he finds out, that he could drown. Right? And then Mr. Glass is like, well, everybody's got a weakness. Right. That's yours.
Right.
And it's like, oh, so
yes.
Yeah, it's so good.
It is so good. And I love that movie so much. And I think you're right that's what's great about it is as a superhero origin story, what could be better?
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's been an hour.
That's crazy because we haven't even gotten to the bad stuff about M. Night Shyamalan. Ignore the bell. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So I mean, as a superhero origin story, can you even imagine another superhero movie that just does the origin story for the entire film? Is there another one that does that?
I mean, Batman Begins tries to, but it doesn't. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good with that.
I could see that. Yeah, if you treat that as just an origin story. Okay.
But it's no Unbreakable.
It's not as good as Unbreakable. There's no way. Yeah.
Well, because that's also because you're waiting for a villain to appear in Unbreakable, right? You're kind of like, okay, well, who's the antagonist here?
Right.
And you don't know who it is. It's like, oh, David Dunn is his own antagonist, and it's like that for most of the film until you get to that ending and you're like, oh, Elijah, Mr. Glass was the villain this whole time. He was setting all this stuff up.
Right.
Killed thousands of people.
Right.
Just to find David Dunn. So then David Dunn is responsible for those deaths.
Yes.
It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it's like, to me, it's for, if you are an adult, to me, most superhero, I'm not a big fan of superhero fiction in general. And I know a lot of it, because I've watched a lot of the movies, I've read a lot of comics, TV shows, and things like that. I even took a master's course on superhero fiction, right? So it's not like I just don't know what I'm talking about. But to me, and this isn't a bad thing about superhero fiction, but to me, too much of it is geared for a juvenile audience. That it's not mature or sophisticated enough for my taste.
Right.
So I don't even think that they're bad. It's like I'm not that much of a fan because I'm like, you're not challenging me enough, or you're not being patient. You don't think that I have enough patience to get through a really interesting origin story. Yeah. And it's over the top and really kind of spectacular stuff.
Yeah, and I mean,
not a lot of subtlety.
Yeah, most superhero films are very much like, okay, this is the hero and that's the villain and they're gonna fight. And I mean, there are films that do a better job than others.
Right.
Superhero films that are better than others. But just in general, it's very black and white.
Well, and what origin story in superhero fiction doesn't involve an explosion or a crazy accident? But if you look at Unbreakable is an origin story, but it's a slow burn of just he discovers his powers in his basement with his son, putting increasing weights on the bench press.
How much weight did you put on?
Right. All of it. And then what
else can we use?
Paint cans on there. It's so good. And it's good. How is that so much more exciting than Bruce Banner getting blown up? But it is so much more exciting than Bruce Banner getting blown up and getting shot full of whatever, gamma rays or whatever. It's so much cooler just him pressing weights. Because this is a filmmaker who's so good at achieving suspense, getting you to, as a viewer, to lean in because you want more. M. Night Shyamalan, how great is all of that? So with that being said, how bad are some of his movies? Let's get into like how he's just failed.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So some people refer to The Last Airbender as the unspeakable film. Like they literally are like, yeah, we don't talk about that one because it's really really bad.
You have to cover most of this. So okay, please help me out because I genuinely don't know. What is the source material?
So
okay.
Yeah, so the source material is an American anime TV series that's called Avatar: The Last Airbender.
So it was not manga first.
No.
So the
TV
source
series,
material is the
TV series, American. Which so the film adapts the first season, which is 20 episodes, and he tried to do that in 2 hours. Which, that's problematic in and of itself. You don't get this huge character arc or anything like that.
Right.
But anyway, so it's about Aang. Well, actually, okay, in the original series, his name was Aang, but in the movie, for some reason, it was pronounced Ong. Not sure why he made that decision, but whatever.
Wrong.
Yes.
You're pronouncing it wrong. Yes. Not Ong.
Yes. So he's a fascinating character who is told there are benders, so people who can manipulate the elements, the 4 different elements. So you can either manipulate water, earth, air, or fire. So he's an airbender. And like everybody only has one of those 4 abilities, and not everybody has one of the abilities.
Airbender just sounds like a frat boy who's really good at farting. I can manipulate the air. But okay, sorry.
So anyway, so Aang is told, basically Dalai Lama style, he's told like, you are the next avatar, who is the person who can control all 4 elements. So he can manipulate all 4. So he needs to be trained in all 4 elements in order to, be the avatar and like save the world.
You're saying kind of like Dalai Lama in the sense that can there only be one at a time who's capable of doing this?
And it's just a reincarnation of the same soul.
Okay.
And it's even the same selection process of like, here, pick some of these toys.
And you would recognize the one from your previous life.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, he's been told that he is the next avatar, and the world is just starting to be at war, and he's a kid. He's like 11 years old.
Okay.
So he runs off, and he hides for 100 years. He
100 years.
He does this thing where he creates this he goes into this spiritual state or whatever where he's just not aging. He's under the water. So anyway, he does this, right?
Sure.
And then when he comes out 100 years later, the war has been going on for 100 years. No end in sight. Like, it's just like, yep, the Fire Nation just took over.
Okay.
So,
is this set on Earth or it's like a foreign planet?
It's an alternate Earth, I guess you could say. Yeah, just like a completely different world.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyway, so he's a fascinating character in that sense, and so the first season is about him learning water bending. So that's what the movie is about. So the first season, again, was 20 episodes.
Just him learning one of the 4 elements.
Right.
Okay.
It's a good series because he goes along with, his friends, and like it's a process to like learn how to like water bend.
And this has been a very popular series, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And when did it first come on?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
And how many seasons did it get?
It got 3 seasons. So one.
Weren't there 4 elements?
Yes, but he already knew airbending because he was an airbender. So he knew that before he was,
When the show starts, he already knows airbending?
Yeah.
So then he's only got 3 to go.
Right.
Okay.
So it's water, earth, and fire, and it has to be in that order.
Oh.
So anyway, so he's learning water bending. The movie, the reason why a lot of people dislike it, I mean, there are several reasons. For one, the creatures look different. For another, a lot of people complained about whitewashing. The characters in the anime, you know, I mean, they're drawn in anime style. They appear to be Asian.
Right.
And M. Night Shyamalan decided that each of the 4 different nations, the Earth Kingdom, Water Kingdom, you know, all of them, would be a different race.
Okay.
So the Fire Nation is Indian.
Okay.
And the Water Nation is supposed to be like Native American.
Okay.
But it wasn't, the main actors didn't, as far as I know, did not have any Native American or Aboriginal heritage.
Okay.
So that was part of the problem. The main character, Aang, or Ong, then
Wrong.
right. Then the Airbenders are supposed to be monks, and yet it was a white kid who was cast.
Right.
So that was, and the Earth Kingdom was Asian. So that was part of the problem that people had with it. Another problem, there were all these, you know, very well choreographed scenes of, you know, martial arts in order to get the bending to work.
Okay.
But it severely underpowered everybody, including the Earth Kingdom, who originally could, like, you know, lift giant boulders just right up out of the ground, you know, just they like not physically lift it, but like it comes up out of the ground just because they're like, and it lifts.
Okay.
But in the movie, it takes 5 of them doing a choreographed step dance thing in order to move one rock about this big. So it's like, well, why is that a thing?
Right.
The other thing is people had issue with the Fire Nation. In the movie, they were not able to create fire. They could only manipulate existing fire.
Okay.
But in the show, they could make fire out of nothing, which is part of why they're so scary, right? Because they can just like shoot fire at you.
Right.
But I can kind of defend that one in that, you know, it does kind of make sense to balance them all out so that each element, each nation is able to do the same kind of thing. It's fire bending, it's not fire creation. So I can kind of see it from that perspective. The movie is still really bad just in terms of, you know, set design, like creature design, script writing is terrible. And of course you've got child actors who are never great.
Right.
Or very rarely great. Because, I mean, Haley Joel Osment is amazing. Mm-hmm. He always was, and I know that he's still doing things. But, yeah. So anyway, it felt really strange, and just people were upset about how different it was from the original anime. But it was also just not a very well done film because you're trying to tell the story of 20 episodes.
Yeah.
This whole character arc in one episode. Or in one film.
Yes. So I've got a theory on this.
Okay.
So my theory is that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but in almost every movie that he's done, certainly all of his excellent films and the ones we've talked about, The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, I mean, I could like name others in here, like Split, The Visit, which we haven't talked about, and there are others in there. They're original screenplays, are they not?
I believe so, yeah. I
And
believe every single one of the good films is.
And the movie that we were talking about before, which I said I thought he was a producer, I thought it was called Elevator, but it's called Devil.
Okay.
Where it's all set on, like, within an elevator.
Right.
So he apparently wrote that. He didn't direct it, but he wrote it.
Gotcha.
Right? And that is, as far as I understand, original and brilliant. I really like that movie. Tons of suspense, all within an elevator.
Yeah.
So is it... And then also he's working within animation, right? Is the last...
It's live action.
Oh my goodness. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then... All right.
It's live action, but the CGI is terrible.
See, and this is my theory, is I think that M. Night Shyamalan is so great when you give him a small budget and lots of creative control and an original screenplay. If you're giving him his original story.
Right. And this was the thing, right? Like, Nickelodeon, who created the original anime, then like they gave him a massive budget, and he was excited to do the film. He was excited to do The Last Airbender because I believe he said that he was a fan, but also his son was a fan.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, how much of a fan could you have been when this is the product that you came up with? But yeah, and like, it's not a suspenseful story. There's none of that in it.
Right.
I don't think that he wrote the script for it. For The Last Airbender, like the film. And yeah, like, it just working on this massive scale, massive set, massive budget.
So that's written by writer for The Last Airbender.
Okay. But
I'll
yeah,
look into it, but yeah.
It's just it was very disappointing. And
according to IMDb, he's credited as the only writer for it.
Okay.
And director.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still not his original idea, right? Like,
right.
It's not his original concept.
Right.
It's an adaptation.
Yeah.
And there is an art to adaptation. I don't think he has it.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not good at that.
But then when people say, like, when people were criticizing him, saying, like, do you know, because to me, it and correct me if I'm wrong, but as best I remember, there seemed to be talk of, is he ever going to get greenlit for another film again? Because it just kind of seemed like he was going to just get pushed out of the film industry because people were so resentful about the stuff that he was making and so disappointed. And then I just think, okay, but is that fair criticism of M. Night Shyamalan? Or is that just saying, like, hey, swing and a miss, dude?
Right.
What went wrong? Well, it wasn't an original screenplay, wasn't low budget. You're trying to adapt something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's not suspense. And I mean, like, Unbreakable and Split are those things where it's like, ooh, it doesn't quite fit into, he's great at suspense, but he's good at those things.
Right.
But it's still, it's like trying to do something totally different.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's really upsetting because The Last Airbender, the series, Avatar, is very character driven, and it just felt like he missed out on, he turned them into caricatures almost.
Right.
And
because how could you not, if you're trying to take that much source material and condense it into a single film?
Right. So let's move on to After Earth.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the whole film. You couldn't get through it.
I couldn't get through it. And I mean, and that's something where it's like, he's not doing a typical M. Night Shyamalan thing with this. It's not a suspense film. I don't know if that was an original screenplay or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either. But
like, sci-fi action.
Right.
Big budget. Big star.
Yeah. It's interesting because the film starts out huge. It starts out like on this whole planet with, you know, this whole, you know, space cadet style thing, right? Like this training thing of like all these different kids who are all going to be action stars and everything and all that. But the movie itself doesn't really get started until they land on the planet, and Will Smith, he like breaks his leg or something, so he can't go out.
Okay.
So Jaden Smith has to go and like put a homing beacon or something so that people can find them.
Okay.
So it's just the two of them.
Gotcha.
But Will Smith can't walk.
Right.
So he stays in the ship.
So how awesome is this movie going to be? Get an action star of Will Smith, who's done some great like action roles.
Right.
And get him to just be, Yeah.
So he's, you know, I mean, all the talk about him is
really,
you know,
making
like,
good use of your star.
Right. And so it's like Cypher Rage. That's his name. Cypher Rage. I believe so. At
Cypher
least.
Rage is in traction.
Right.
I can't move.
Yeah. So he is supposed to be, you know, like this awesome soldier. And, you know,
but we never get to see it.
Pretty much literally kneecapped for the whole thing. And
Wonderful.
so we're following Jaden Smith, who, you know, I mean, he's a kid. He's, you know, doesn't follow the rules all the time. You know, he's a little disobedient here and there. And what? He's a kid. Right? And so he's got the comm link. And it's being walked through, you know, this whole jungle alien planet thing with these horrifying creatures for the entire film by Will Smith. So he's just talking to his dad the whole time, and it's yeah. I actually found the film more enjoyable than I thought I would.
Okay.
Because of how many people said that it was just
that story
awful.
Doesn't sound that bad to me, actually. Now that you go through it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, you know, Jaden Smith, like, his character, you know, trying to, like, he doesn't really know how to be a soldier.
Right.
And so he has to be, like, talked through it, but he's still a kid, right? So I think that it's pretty interesting. And then, of course, you know, like, the comlink, like, breaks at one point, like, toward the end, so then he has to, like, do things on his own. And, you know, but Will Smith can still see what's going on, but he can't, like, talk to him.
Right.
So, you know, seeing that, like, journey of, you know, the kid becoming more confident in themselves and all that, it was a decently enjoyable film once they got on the planet. So it's just weird that you, like, set up this whole universe of, like, yeah, we're battling against these aliens and everything, and then we're going to focus on 2 characters on one planet for the whole thing. It feels like a fake out or something. Like,
yeah, well, that was the thing, is like the way it was marketed, the way I saw it, then it looked like it was going to be this big budget sci-fi movie, like sci-fi action adventure, and then I'm like, I don't, that to me is not, like, M. Night Shyamalan can direct that, but that's not what I want from him.
Yeah, one criticism that I saw, which was, you know, Cinema Sins, those guys who make fun of everything. Then when they did After Earth, they had one point where they were just like, I know you guys expect me to say, you know, all these terrible things about what's happening in the movie, but honestly, more than anything, it's just boring. Like, there's not a lot happening.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, but, like, M. Night Shyamalan is good at making these scenes drawn out and still kind of tense, even though there's not a lot necessarily happening. So, yeah, I enjoyed the film more than I think people give it credit for.
Okay.
But, yeah, I still think that, by the way, I still think that Last Airbender is awful, and I would never choose to watch it.
Right.
But
right.
After Earth, I would watch again. So it's interesting, because I do think that, like, he definitely, there are fair criticisms of his work.
Yes.
But he doesn't deserve all the criticism that he's gotten.
Right. One of the really interesting ones that I saw, looking at his IMDb for as a writer, 1999, Stuart Little. He wrote the screenplay.
Was he the only one credited?
I gotta check on this, because that's nuts to me.
My goodness,
and,
what?
And hang on, if he actually is, like, oh, he can adapt something.
So he can adapt it, but not direct it if he's adapting it.
Because who wrote Stuart Little? Because I know that was E.B. White, who wrote Charlotte's Web. So for writers, according to this, E.B. White wrote the book, screenplay, M. Night Shyamalan, and Greg Booker. So
okay, interesting. Huh.
Greg Brooker. Sorry. And let's see.
Because Stuart Little is a good movie.
Oh,
but
it's so good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie.
Getting Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
Sheena Davis. Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And it's charming. It's delightful.
Right.
M. Night Shyamalan, at the same time that he was doing, like, The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable and Signs, and he wrote Stuart Little.
I feel like I need to rethink everything.
I know, I couldn't believe that. Because that movie is wonderful. And
it is.
He apparently can adapt.
Wow.
And can work totally outside of, like, the genre of what M. Night Shyamalan movies are.
Right.
And do a great job of it.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, he is adapting it from a book and not like a 20 episode, like, you know what I mean? First season of a show.
Yeah.
So maybe that helped. But boy, that is impressive as a writer to be able to have that much range.
Yeah.
Whew.
Oh, man. Okay. So are there any films that we haven't touched on yet?
I think that we should talk about The Visit.
Okay, yes, The Visit.
Because it's fascinating to me because like I'm a huge horror fan, and I think that is the closest he stepped into the horror genre. Right? Mm-hmm. He always does suspense, thrillers, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Suspense and thrillers, and really suspense films, but not what you would call horror.
Right. And I think that's also something that a lot of people mistake. They expect it to be a horror film.
They keep getting upset at him for being something that he's not, instead of saying, but let's evaluate what he is doing, right? Instead of saying, like, you know, well, I don't like that kind of twist ending, or that twist ending isn't good enough, or it's not scary enough. And it's like, but that's not what he's doing. He's doing suspense films.
Yeah.
Like, and so, I mean, like, because probably the greatest suspense director would be Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Right? It's like suspense. Alfred Hitchcock doesn't really do horror. He's done some.
Right.
I think you can say The Birds is horror. I think you can say Psycho is horror, but really there's still suspense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but The Visit, what's fascinating to me about it is his usage of found footage.
Yeah.
Of going into this mode of storytelling that really only exists within the horror genre.
Right.
And after having so many really good found footage movies and really bad found footage movies, and then being able to do something with it that's still clever and fairly innovative.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I really love that film.
Me too.
It was so much fun, like, seeing it
so
for the first
fun.
time. Like,
it's a fun movie.
It is, like, oh man. And like we kind of talked about this before, where it's not a classic found footage film,
right?
In that, like,
it's not exactly found,
right? It's the character who's filming it is the one who edited it, presumably. So it's like, well, they're putting all this together after the fact, and they just, like, it's, you kind of want to give credit to the girl who's been filming the whole time. You're like, wow, well done. Like, you got great footage.
Yes.
And somehow it worked for a story that you didn't know that you were going to be filming, which is what, like, documentaries are, right? Like, and that's what found footage is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a documentary about, like, something horrible that happened.
It depends. I see what you're saying. It depends, because I think that is what you're saying, because I'm saying that he's doing something fairly clever and innovative within the found footage mode of storytelling, right? Because found footage traditionally within horror, the way it's worked, it's really like the Blair Witch Project that kind of started this whole thing. And it's this idea of, what if you found a tape that of somebody who's doing something that they don't think is going to ultimately be documenting their own demise, right? How creepy is that concept, right? Conceptually, it's like, wow, it's so creepy. And then the idea of the veracity of it, of, like, it's so real looking because it's, you know, actually being filmed on, like, a camcorder. And then what if you did find this, and then you're kind of like, it's so creepy of this found horror movie that's real. Right? Yeah. But then that's not what he's doing, and it kind of seems like that's what he's doing. But when you really look at what's happening within the story, then you go, but it's not found.
Right.
It is more of, like, a mockumentary. Yeah. Almost. Right? Yeah. Where it's like, we're going to take all of the traits of the characteristics of documentary filmmaking, but this isn't a documentary because this is fiction. Yeah. This didn't actually happen. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always, it's been fascinating to me since I first saw it. Like, I don't particularly like found footage films because, like, it's hard to buy into them. I mean, I know that when the Blair Witch Project first came out, then, you know, there were all the questions about, like, well,
because
is
of the way
actually,
they did it. I mean, literally, like, I think the one girl who stars in it, the woman who stars in it, I read a whole story about this. I think they even had an obituary.
Oh, wow.
For them. And like, her parents continued to get these super creepy cards and phone calls from friends and family members. I'm so sorry about what happened to your daughter. And I saw, like, the film and whatever, and it's like, because they didn't know how to credit their names, so they just put their real names in there. Right. And people bought it. They bought the fact that, like, and the way they marketed it, and because nobody had done this before. Right. And there were questions of, wait, is this actually
Yeah.
real? Because they presented it as, this is totally real. These like filmmakers did not come back. We don't know what happened.
Right.
We just found this.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's why I've had trouble like with other films though, because it's like, you know, that it's, you know, like, I mean, because I never saw like the Blair Witch when it first came out, because I would have been like, what, like 6 years old or something.
Oh my goodness,
like...
yeah, if that. Yeah, I did see it in the theater, and I was probably about as young as you could be to see it in the theater. I think I was 13 probably.
Okay.
And like, ooh, it scared me. Oh, it scared me so much. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, so, you know, like, essentially like growing up with the found footage genre being a genre.
Yes.
Right? Then it's just like, okay, well, yeah, like that's just a thing. But
right.
And so that's again, I think why The Visit works so well, because it's like, well, yeah, it's not exactly found footage, but it's taking those conventions.
Right. Because I think what you're saying is trying to buy the premise of found footage can be difficult. Depending on the film, then it's like, because to me, the big question with it often, and this is like what you have to get around when you're writing a found footage film, is why the hell would they keep filming this?
Right.
Why, if you are getting chased by somebody, why would you continue to hold the camera?
Yeah.
At some point, you would just drop it, or you would throw it at the monster or whatever's coming at you.
Absolutely.
So then you have to get over this whole, well, why the hell is, like, what am I watching, and how are you justifying the fact that this is continuing to be filmed?
Yeah.
Right? And there's some movies that do a better job of it. Like Paranormal Activity does a really good job of it.
Yeah, it explains it that it's like, it's security cameras. So they're just always filming.
So they don't, it's not somebody who's watching this super creepy thing happen who's like, Zoink Scoob, let's get out of here. Right? You don't have that, because it's like, it's just sitting there.
Right.
It's like, ooh, that's clever. That's a clever way of doing a super low budget movie.
Yeah.
And why the camera would still be rolling. But yeah, The Visit is really cool.
Right.
Because you buy the fact that...
Yeah, she wants to document her first time meeting her grandparents.
Yeah.
And she does, like, so many of these shots, you know, from way back, like, where it's like, it's totally staged. And it's supposed to be totally staged, because she's making a film.
Right.
About The Visit.
Yes.
And it's so good that way. And then... like, even, like, with the turns, like, when they're under, like, in the basement, you know, under the house.
Under the house is
then,
such
you know,
a good,
she's, like,
good scene.
She's filming, like, this whole, like, haha, first game with Grandma.
Totally.
And then, like, it just goes crazy.
It's so scary.
And, like, the footage is not good after that, right? Like, it's not...
Right.
It's all shaky and all that.
Yeah.
But that's not how most of it is. That's just how it is when there's actually something freaky going on.
Right.
But as soon as she comes out, and then the grandma comes out, and the grandma's just laughing and ha 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 ha, that was fun. And it was like, wait, what?
Right.
So of course you're going to keep filming. Like, you're not going to just be like,
right.
What just happened? Like, yeah, it's really, really great. And I love it. Like, it's so good.
It really, it is a terrific movie. And like, that's why I watched The Visit, and then I see Split, because isn't that the one that came right after?
I think so.
And then it's just like, the suspense disappeared again. Like, you know what I mean? You had it, because I feel like that story could have had suspense.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Visit, it's really, really terrific. Yeah. Because it's just, he's doing this great stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know, looking at his IMDb, I think, like, we're pretty much finished here. But unless you have more to say. But the only thing that I see coming forward for him is Glass. And I'm not sure beyond that. Let me just double check here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see more of him doing suspense and thrillers. But Glass looks so good. I'm so excited for that one that, like, I'm not even disappointed that, like, I don't know what else he's gonna do, because I'm just like, I'm sold. I want to go see Glass.
For sure. I mean, like, I think that it's going to be, I want to see Elijah on screen again. I want Mr. Glass on screen. I like the fact that it's called Glass, right? Yeah. I want, David Dunn, right? Is that it? David Dunn?
Yeah.
Like, I want him. with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, and then having James McAvoy, all three of them.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay,
those three are all amazing actors,
terrific,
like,
and to see them all interacting together, like that's because my only thing with Split is it's just I feel like it's too indulgent in terms of that one character, and then you don't have that dynamic. There's not really any dynamic. So it's not like I looked at that, I watched that, and then I'm like, oh, now I don't want to see Glass. It's like, no, I really, really want to see Glass.
Yeah.
For sure. The only other one that it just says in development. I don't think there's no date attached to it, because he's got Glass in 2019. Do you know when it's supposed to come out in 2019?
I don't remember, no.
Okay, and then Labor of Love is the other one, which right now on IMDb it is billed as a drama, mystery, romance.
Huh.
And it says, and he's the director and writer, so there's that. And then it says, a widower embarks on a cross-country trip on foot to prove his love for his late wife. Yeah, so he embarks on a cross-country trip on foot to prove his love for his late wife. Mystery, romance, drama.
I could see it being very good. But it's too early to say at this point, because it sounds almost like a cross between like After Earth and, like, at the moment it just sounds like After Earth a lot. Like, there's one character making this journey, but with the mystery and romance parts thrown in, then I mean that could be very, very interesting.
I'd like to see him working, within. I'd like to see what he does with it, especially seeing him do it as a romance. See what he does with that, because I think that he does a pretty good job at times with this. I think in Signs, between Mel Gibson and his wife, like those scenes with them, like when she's dying and all of that, like they're really moving. Yeah. Really touching. Yeah. So I think that he could be effective with this. Yeah. It's interesting.
And I mean, of course, everything in The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And even in Unbreakable. Both of those.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah. So
he can do touching. He can do sentimentality.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it.
He just shouldn't adapt another TV show.
Right. Yes. Not an entire season into one movie.
And he shouldn't get a big budget. Right. I think is what we're saying.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't come to a lot of conclusions here, but I think that's one thing that we could agree on.
Yeah. Those are things he needs to avoid. If we are his manager or his agent, yes. Advising him. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I think we're done.
Yeah. That was a great discussion, though. Yeah,
that was wonderful. I really liked that.
So much to talk about with him. Yeah. He's such an interesting director.
Really interesting.
Just in general.
Yeah, it's so great having a director like him, right? Because I guess like this would be one thing I do want to say is in an age of Hollywood where you have so few original screenplays being not being written, but being produced. Right. There's tons of original screenplays being written all the time. Yeah. It's just they're not getting greenlit for production. Yeah. Because like they're doing like, oh, well, let's get that, TV show from the 70s. We'll do, and we'll do a remake of this and we'll do a reboot of this because like we'll definitely get our money back. Right. And then you get a whole lot of small, low budget indie, like Oscar-worthy films. Those ones are original screenplays. But that kind of, like, there's very few mid-range films, like, in terms of budget, that are original screenplays, and he's one person who is still doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm grateful for. Yeah. Because I like that. Because otherwise, you can get frustrated all the time of just, like, saying, well, I'm a fan of the source material, and I know you're going to ruin it. Right. Right? And like that's like what most of Hollywood is doing. It's just like ruining really good source material. And it's like there's so many great original story ideas out there. Like can you just start like making those? Yeah. And so I'm grateful for that. Even if he makes missteps here and there. It's like
that also, kind of helps to characterize him like it just gives him a little bit more personality, more to talk about, right? Because like we were talking before, like if we do an episode on Spielberg, it's just basically going to be like
praise.
Just all praise. Like it's good to have a director that you can say, well, I like when you're doing these things, but not when you're doing those things. And yeah,
because Lady in the Water, which you haven't seen, then like for me, the issue with that, and I guess that's maybe where he was trying to go and this was the criticism at the time. It was trying to go too broad, too much commercial appeal, trying to please too many people and make a film that was palatable to kind of everybody. And, you know, more family based a little bit, right? There's still some dark elements to it, but kind of like a modern fairy tale where there's some kind of creepy stuff like in a lot of fairy tales. But that's really what he's doing, like a contemporary fairy tale.
Right.
And I mean, I didn't like it because there was some suspense, but I feel like he didn't push the suspense enough, but it also had too much suspense to make it a good fairy tale story, right? It's like too much M. Night Shyamalan to make it work as not being an M. Night Shyamalan style film.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, you should.
So that I can, you know, pick it apart a little bit. But,
yeah.
And so Netflix or Amazon Prime Video, get on this. I know that you're watching.
Exactly.
You probably just have cameras in the walls or something. I don't even know. Like
absolutely. Right.
But yeah, so that about wraps it up then for M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll, you know, be able to talk about more of his work in the future.
Right,
though.
yeah. Maybe like after Glass comes out, then we'll do like a whole hour on Glass. Like,
sounds like we definitely could.
I'm sure we could. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching.
Yeah.
All right.
See ya.
Bye. Ignore the bell, people. We're going to keep going. We're still ignoring it. Don't worry. I don't know what I think that's the fire drill. All right. We're going to go home. Yeah. All right. We're done.